Hey guys, today I'm driving a 2016 BMW 328. This is the F30 chassis that's been slightly redesigned this year. I guess you could call it a facelift revision, a mid-cycle facelift revision. They've done a number of things to the car that might go unnoticed, actually probably will go unnoticed to most people that aren't real BMW enthusiasts. It retains the N20 engine, which is the 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo, 240 horsepower, 258 foot-pounds of torque. It's a little gem of an engine. I'm not really a fan of the way it sounds, not very dynamic that way, but it does have a ton of power and a ton of torque. It really moves, especially made it to this ZF 8-speed transmission. One of my favorite transmissions as far as automatics go, actually probably my favorite automatic transmission. Performs better than a lot of dual clutch transmissions. It's really, really good. It shifts really crisp, and usually when they're in sport mode, any car with this transmission is right up in the revs, and it works very, very well. I'm just not a fan of BMW's current steering. It's much too light. As good of a daily driver as this car is, it's kind of turned into a 5 Series, and not the cool E39 5 Series or even E60 5 Series, but just kind of a current generation BMW. They're just a little vague. You know, this isn't a 3 Series that you think of, and you think of a dynamic car, a really special car. This car has turned into something that's exactly not any of that. It's not dynamic and it's not special. A little bit disappointed, especially considering the tweaks and the facelift and all that. The changes are subtle in this car, aesthetically speaking. They did change the front end a little bit, the headlights, the tail lights, interior is a little bit different. What's funny is when I walked up to this car, I had my 13-year-old son with me, and I thought it was the old body style car. Well, the first generation F30, and he swore up and down that this was the new car. Dad, this is the new car. Dad, look at the tail lights, look at the tail lights. I had to go back into my office and Google this thing to make sure I was driving the revised car. So yeah, the changes are really subtle. Interior changes, really, really subtle also. I think the chassis stuff is probably the biggest differentiator. It does corner a little bit flatter, although again, the steering is still just not good. Overall, way too light. For a car that's supposed to be performance-oriented, you know, it comes from performance-oriented roots. I'm a BMW driver. I have a couple E30s, E36 M3, and, you know, I guess they're just so dynamic. This thing feels really, really bad steering-wise. I do love the N54 engine. A lot of torque, 258 foot-pounds. The thing really, really moves, you know, and the ZF 8-speed is great. It works wonderfully with the manual transmission in this car. I've driven a few manuals. Paddles work well in this one. It has the optional sports seats, which I always loved BMW's sports seats. I think they have the right amount of bolstering versus comfort, and I love the adjustment on the bottom of the seat. I have long legs, so I really appreciate that. This really is a good daily driver. I mean, it's just not a 3 Series anymore. It's just kind of an appliance. It's turned into an appliance, and that's a shame, coming from a company that probably built the best mid-size car, you know, literally up until the E90. You know, the E30, E36, E46, E90, I think those were they all set benchmarks. They won every single car and driver comparo they were in. Like, you know, we always thought it was rigged, right? Because BMW won every comparo, the 3 Series won everything. And it really lost its throne when the F30 came out, you know? It is fast, 0 to 60 in like 5 seconds, 5.2 seconds. It does the quarter mile in 14 flat. I've seen people clock it at 13.9. It is a really quick car. I mean, that's the same speed as an E36 M3. They're about 14 seconds flat in the quarter mile, so they definitely move. The N20 2-liter is a super efficient engine. Gets about 35 miles a gallon highway. I think it's quoted at 24 or 25 city, so you might average about 30, 31. It's a really efficient engine. It's very quiet at highway speeds. Wish it sounded a little... I don't want it to sound like the 6-cylinder from the E90, but I just want it to have its own character. And the piped-in noise and different things like that, it just doesn't have any character. Again, it's just kind of an appliance. The F30s are about 3,700 pounds. They're pretty porky at this point. And, you know, having owned an E90, my wife had an E91 wagon. I really love that car. I love the steering, man. It's really the biggest differentiator for me is the steering is really, really lackluster in this car and really changes the entire character of it. So if you're shopping for a mid-size sedan, you're in the market for an A4, 3 Series, Infiniti, the Mercedes C-Class. This one doesn't wow me. C-Class wows me with a lot of pretty neat technology. It also looks pretty stunning. Looks like a little S-Class. You know, the A4 with the virtual dash, they're really doing some cool things over at Audi. But this one is just a little bit plain Jane for me. I guess I probably wouldn't pick this one out of the bunch. I think they need to go back to the drawing board, make it more like the E90. And although they did revise the steering, just for me, I can't really tell a difference. I don't know what they did. Still lacks any feel on center, still doesn't load up around turns, and it's just still really, really vague. I feel like BMW's kind of gone away from the enthusiast and maybe focused more on just the general crowd. And I guess that's who buys this car now, you know? So I don't think the engineers went in saying, let's make a less dynamic 3 Series. I think they just went in making what people want. And the people buying this car at this point, they aren't enthusiasts. I think they're just people that want an appliance, and to me it really does feel like an appliance. It's not an exciting car to drive. Well, I think BMW needs to go back to the drawing board and figure out where that happy medium is between making the enthusiast happy and making, you know, the non-enthusiast who is just coming into the brand, you know, making them happy also with a compliant ride, and good enough steering to make both happy too. I know it's a fine line. I know it's tough to do now. But really feel like they missed the mark with the 3 Series. So looking forward to driving the 348, sorry, the 340, hope that one's better. But the 328 for me, just a little lackluster. I'd say go drive it if you're in this segment, at least get it out of the way, because everybody's gonna drive the BMW that's shopping for a C-Class, an A4, you know, the usual suspects, the Infiniti. Go drive it, cross it off the list, and buy something else until they fix it for real, because the facelift revision barely noticeable, and the chassis revisions in my mind not substantial enough to differentiate itself from the others as a winner. Alright guys, see you.